Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Well, good evening, folks. Welcome. Happy Monday to you. This is Scotty Roberts. And of course, this is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on my YouTube channel. For now, we are just a podcast. Soon again, we'll be on the radio waves. As soon as that all gets worked out, I'll let you know what's going on. But for now, we're here, and we're several places where you can catch this broadcast. Either here on the YouTube channel, you can catch it over on my Facebook channels, and also on my Instagram and my X channels, as well as my patreon.com site. And so all those links are in the description below, and you can see what's going on there. If you're over on the Instagram channel, especially right now, you can come over to youtube.com/Scotty Roberts to catch this show. Hey, Lauren Mullins, good to see you over there. And Janice Ananuzia, I got to remember how to pronounce your name. And Robert Rust, good to see you. All of you, come on over. There is a link, and I don't have it with me, so just go to youtube.com/Scotty Roberts and go to tonight's show, which is playing live there now. And you can join the chat room. That's the only reason I recommend it. If you want to come in, join the chat room and contribute somehow or meet the other people, the other Intrepids that are here, you can do that now. And so we've got a couple of guests coming on tonight. We're going to do a little roundtable tonight with very familiar guests. They are two guests that we have attached to this show quite often, Professor Bauer, as we call him, and Jason Patrick have agreed, as a result of the conversation we got into on Sunday. If you saw the It's Sunday show, which is not the formal Intrepid radio program, it's just our Sunday offering. We said, let's pick this up on Monday and talk about this. And now, if you saw, I'm sure you did, I'll put it up here again, the graphic for tonight's show, The Great Reset, I put with a question mark. And talking about the roundtable for tonight, is this show going to strictly be about the Great Reset? Because there is a thing known as the Great Reset. We're going to talk about this a bit. I'm not. Professor Bauer is, Jason Patrick is, and I am going to talk about this. Is somebody, one of them, mentioning me right now? I got to put on my glasses and find out. Let's see. I'm used to getting yelled at. See you then, says Professor Bauer. And Jason, copy. I'll be a tad behind. Previous engagement overlapping. Understandable. I don't know how it was previous. I just told you about this yesterday. Did you mean you had plans before today? For tonight? So I want to give you just a little bit about the Great Reset, because I use that title, but I'm not using it in the strict definition of what the Great Reset was, although, as I said, this is probably going to be something that's going to be brought up tonight and mentioned tonight, and how the whole Great Reset thing has been brought over. Some call it a conspiracy theory. Others have written about it. You look at Glenn Beck, wrote a series of books on the Great Reset and the danger of it. And is the Great Reset a conspiracy theory that imagines this vast left-wing plot to establish a totalitarian one-world government? No, not necessarily. Despite the fact that there are some people who have spun these conspiracy theories based on it with some reason, as we're going to find out tonight, though, the Great Reset is real. And there's all kinds of information you can look at on this from the Economic Forum, what came out of COVID, all of that. This really a reach to try to establish a one world system of doing things. But the goals of the Great Reset kind of depend on the obliteration of not only free markets, which is what we are here in the United States, but of an individual liberty and free will. It's perhaps ironically an unsustainable thing, this Great Reset that the Economic Forum talked about. Like earlier attempts at totalitarianism, the Great Reset is doomed to ultimate failure. Now, that doesn't mean, however, that it won't, like in a lot of the earlier attempts throughout history, try to raise its ugly head and leave a lot of destruction in its wake, which is all the more reason to oppose it now and with all our might. And so the Great Reset, I am taking that and saying, based on some of the things I've heard Professor Bauer say, which he will expound on any moment now, we're going to kind of let him loose and we're going to talk about this. And when Jason gets here, he's going to join us. So you guys call in as soon as you're ready, you two. And folks, we do have a call-in line for tonight. If you want to get in on this and join the conversation, ask some questions, it's all here. Before we do, by the way, I just took a glimpse at the chat room. Welcome everybody who's here. Grumpy Stack is here. Good to see you. Elvis is here. Elvis asks, will Bauer let anyone talk? I think he may. But we may want to do a lot of listening to him tonight, too. But I'm definitely going to be asking him questions. Carlene Smith is here. Randall Flagg is here tonight. We have Kalina is here. And Hans Stein. Do you go by Stein or Steen? Hans, that's a good question. You remember that from Young Frankenstein? That's Frankenstein, not Frankenstein. Roger Rabbit is here. Good evening. And Hans, I don't even know if I know you. I don't know if I've met you here before or not. If I have, my brain has squirreled it away. It's been so long. So Carlene is here. Everybody's here. Unveiling Addiction is here. I don't know if I know who you are either. But welcome to the show. Anybody who wants to come on in. You can join the chat room. There's free conversation over there right now. And if you're seeing this show in any of the other forums, like Facebook or Instagram or X or over on Patreon, the very best way to join the chat is here on the YouTube channel. And that was the link that I put up. And you can't see it, I don't think, if I put it up in this channel. So make your way over to the YouTube channel. Come on in and join the conversation, or just listen from where you are. That's fine too. So I'm waiting for Professor Bauer and Jason Patrick, to call in. And as soon as they do, we'll bring them into this little discussion. And what prompted this theme for tonight was yesterday during It's Sunday. We had some conversations, and of course, Professor Bauer called in as we were signing out, which is his general practice, and just to see if he can get me to stay on for a little longer. And he called in, and we started talking. He said something about, and he'll correct me if I've got this wrong, but he said something about this week we are going to see the end of the Harris campaign. Maybe the end of Kamala Harris as a candidate. And I said, do you think they could really do that at this point? And he said, oh, yeah, that could be done. And so I said, oh, look, we don't have time to do that yesterday, I told him, because I got to get out of here for Sunday afternoon. But I said, I would love to know what's on your mind. And let's open this forum up tonight and talk about this. So as soon as these boys, who I've seen them say hello, as soon as they actually show up here, we'll bring them into the show, because I can't stall forever on stuff I didn't study very deeply, because I'm wanting to hear what Professor Bauer has to say, and Jason and I are here to either take him to task or agree with him and take it from there. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion tonight, either way. So, what do you all think? Do you believe that we are in for an interesting week with the Harris campaign? I know with the news, I've seen all kinds of things going on in the news about all the big media blitz. Oh my God, you look like Professor Bauer. I swear, with your lighting and your hair and everything, you look a little Zeusian over there tonight, and the black curtains, and very
Zeusian.
Zeusian.
I don't know that I've been tagged with that before, but thank you, I think.
Yeah. So, yeah, you look either like you've got some demagoguery around you, demagoguery-ish, demagodishness. There you go. Or you're one of those freak new age guys. I don't know which one it is, but you look pretty good tonight. Frankly, your lighting's good.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
If I had hair like yours, I'd wear it that way. So,
I once I turned, it was right after I turned 40, I cashed out and I built my recording studio, and I said, I like hair. I got it. I'm going to grow it. So between over the last almost 30 years, I've cut it and grown it in about 5-year periods. And this just happens to be one where, hey, if you got it, guys our age usually don't have hair, let alone can grow it.
That's right. Well, maybe I'll try to grow mine out. I fear that if I try to grow mine out, I'm going to look like Gollum, a little bald on the top with some long wisps. So Doug Grumpy Stack says you look Poseidon-esque. I think that's the word you're going for. Poseidon-esque body boy. Well, there you go.
Well, all right. Now, I think that's all right.
Jason did say he was going to be following up with us just a little later than expected, because he had some other obligations. Yes. So he will be in a bit. But let's get this ball rolling. I entitled tonight's show "The Great Reset?" ? Not quite sure if that's the precise thing you were aiming at when you gave us some hints yesterday at the end of the morning show yesterday. Mm-hmm. But it seemed to make sense, because I've been hearing an awful lot said about the Great Reset. Now, by strict definition, if you looked it up on Wikipedia or wherever, you're going to find the Great Reset. They said it in 2020 as a result of COVID-19 and a whole realignment of the world's economics, and of course, conspiracy theorists took that the extra mile and said this is going to be a totalitarian reset. It's going to be something where free markets disappear, where free rights disappear, where the individual disappears into the corporate collective. And it sounds very Borg-esque if you're a Star Trek fan. And so the big question is that a conspiracy theory, or is that something that's real? And on top of that, what you're talking about specifically, you said this week something about Kamala Harris and the left, and where you think that might be headed. So, beheaded. Very nice way to put that. Beheaded. 2 words, not beheaded.
Well, I think that there's an argument to be made that there will be and has been a decapitation going on.
Yes, I think you're right. I thought that was an appropriate, if it was If it was Freudian, then it was an appropriate slip. So take it away, Prof. I want to hear what you have to say about this. And I kind of held you off a little bit yesterday because we were at the end of the show, and I said, let's save this for tomorrow night. And tomorrow night is now. So let's go. Let's hear
The
what you
night
got.
is now, and it's now unburdened by what was yesterday, because
That's
here
right.
we are doing what we were talking about being unburdened from yesterday.
Yes. And I'm feeling very unburdened from yesterday's past. So,
well, there's a whole bunch there to unpack, because it's not just a great reset in one direction or another. It's been leveraged, in my opinion, from my current observational analysis. It's been basically something that has been attempted on a global level, to try to control the sleeple. That's been going on for millennia. What we're seeing right now is the latest manifestation of it, in my opinion. And what they're doing is, one of the tropes that I rant on about ad nauseum is that language is the operating system of the mind.
yes.
And what's happened now, we have the most acute attempt to change the way that the mind works and functions normally on surely at a societal level, a cultural level, in different pockets and places around the world and throughout history. But this is the first time that we know of, at least to the extent which we are experiencing it, where the entire globe is literally connected instantly.
Yes.
There is a global interaction that's going on.
And I certainly think that that's what makes this particular election. We had it last time, and the internet's been around for a while. Social media has been around. I do not think we have been to the extent that we are now during this particular election, this period in time, so connected with everything and everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so hard for candidates out there to lie. Number one, there's one aspect of it, because it comes up right away and the whole world is opining on it. Yeah. Or bringing up past records, or bringing up this or bringing up that. So,
well, that's because of the ubiquitous access that we all have to information.
Right.
And this is another rabbit hole cavern we can touch on later, but it's analogous to what we're seeing with AI right now.
Yeah.
And people don't, I'm looking forward. I'm going to be on Fade to Black next Monday night with Jimmy Church.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to talk about ufology.
Ufology.
It's
cool.
not disclosure, it's exposure.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the AI wars. And then I think we're probably going to have a little dip into the informatica realm as well. But my point is that what we're seeing with AI is a complete psyop. And I mean that in the sense that it's been carefully crafted and curated to create capital FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Right.
And it's caused a great deal of confusion, and they've been very effective with it, because there aren't that many geezer geeks like myself that have been in the bits and the bytes and twiddled down stuff for over 40 years. I've seen this stuff, how it works, why it works, and what its capabilities are. And I know what this is. These are nothing more than expert systems. It's nothing more than Siri and Alexa and Google and Bing on steroids. It's the next level of search and interrogation of data. These are really not artificial intelligence. They're assisted interrogators. And all they are is the little pieces of code that some human has written with guardrails and efficiencies to go try to get at data with as much efficiency as possible. It's a task-oriented object system, a piece of software. That's all it is.
Yes.
all this other shit about sentience and about, having, a HAL 9000 Terminator singularity is just a bunch of fantasy bullshit based on physics that is also bullshit. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole, and I'll come back to the main point here.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I can't do that, Dave.
I can't let you do that. So what we're seeing, what I think is happening with this term of a great reset is really a great acknowledgement. And the acknowledgement has come from a great reveal. That's for you, Jason. Where are you? I just dropped you a bone.
Great reveal, but Ching.
Come
I
on,
don't
buddy.
see him yet. He's
Come
not
on.
here yet.
Come on.
Let's let it stew for a little bit for him.
So we're going through now the great reveal, which is causing a great rethink.
Yes.
Which is going to result in a great reset.
Yes.
Now, the great reset of the conspiracy realms, the cabals, the elites, the globalonies, the powers that be, the whoever, place your person, place your people wherever you want. That group, and this ties back to my statement about I think that there's going to be the potential for something very significant with the Harris campaign this week. And I think we actually saw the first lineages of that today, which we can talk about. But the group that has been pulling strings and had their pokers and prods and stuff going around herding the sleeple, okay?
Yeah.
I think that they became acutely aware of their own demise, that their entire plan has just crumbled in front of them. They didn't really see it coming as quick as it did. The plan for the global containment of the carbon-based units around the planet was originally 2051 in their own documentation. Then they backed it to 2030, or there was a 2040, and then they backed it to 2030. And then all of a sudden, this phenomenon happens with this ideology that starts to break free from the control that they had very successfully implemented over 5 or 6 decades. And that break in that ideology was a sense of, oddly enough, a sense of individual identity and from a populist perspective, a group of people wanting to have the same type of thing, the same type of traditions, and just everybody be good and chill and just keep your stuff out of my stuff and I'll keep mine out of yours. And everybody was starting to have the sense that there is that potential out there. And they started to see it because they realized that most of the shit that they'd been told for decades was shit.
Right.
And this is part of the great reveal part of this sequence that I think we're going through. It's not a great awakening. It's a great awareness.
Now, I do want to add something in here, a thought, and you can throw your thoughts in on top of this as well, is that there is a whole cast of people out there that will listen to a conversation like this or anything about that involves the election process or the governance process, the people in government, and say, well, it's all bad. It's all a thing. Everybody does the same thing. And they're not trying to split the blame. They're trying to say it's all something none of us needs to really pay attention to because everybody does their own thing. It's all about who's going to be in power. It's all about who's going to control the government and so on. And you know the arguments that you hear. Well, I don't think we should vote for any of them. And I completely disagree with that philosophy. But I think that there's something that needs to be addressed while we talk about this. At least give it some attention for a moment. is that there are people out there that think this conversation is going to be all about, oh, it's just a waste of time because it's just all about politics. And I would disagree with that. What's your thought on that?
Well, have we mentioned any politics at
Nope,
this point?
not
Or
yet.
have I?
Nope.
Not that I know of. I'm talking, once Informatica did the download, I got the stream of just nonstop data in the middle of the night. I started realizing that the information that was available required me to be curious enough to pursue it. And it also became very painfully, but joyfully at the same time, aware that all of the data that's out there is just metrics in the matrix, and people in there twisting knobs and doing new delineations, distinctions, and differentiations on some term of this and that, going back to what I said earlier about language being the operating system of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the political stuff to me is just the dressing of the characters in the play. Looking at the personalities is more important than the politics to me, because the personalities reveal the character, the attributes, the habits, the nature, the propensities, the peccadillos, all the things that make up who we are the biases. And bias is not a bad thing. It is, in fact, how we operate.
No.
It is a part
of
how our mind and our carbon unit functions, when the blend between the mind and the brain and the body, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. But I'm trying my best to stay on topic here.
Okay.
The idea, because we have, how we can chase squirrels and little
we
nuggets.
can.
So no, there is no, to your statement about people maybe thinking this is going to be political. No, it's systemic. It's a process observation. The idea is that you look at the things that are in place to facilitate the functioning of something. Banking with financial transactions, going to the store, gathering food, paying bills of various nature. All of that happens in a system that is antiquated and basically broken. It can no longer serve the level, the volume, and the velocity of the content that it's being asked to process. Okay, that's just basic. Doesn't matter what you look at. Government, the financial system, the medical and healthcare system, which is a complete fucking joke. The food system, which is killing us, has been killing us. It's the reason I agree with RFK Jr. The chronic health conditions that we have in the United States is because of the food system. The majority of it. There's all kinds of other lifestyle issues and nature versus nurture and all that. But there's no doubt in my mind that the processed food systems that we have has been killing and creating the chronic conditions that people are suffering, from obesity to diabetes to cancers to whatever, you name it. So oddly enough, that system, which has created all these chronic conditions, has fueled another system called the pharmaceutical industry. So you get conditions from the chronic illnesses from the crap that you've consumed, and you go over here to this group and they've got all these wonder drugs and combinations of drugs and experimental things and all kinds of shit that does all kinds of things to address the conditions and the symptoms you have. It's an endless cycle of death. So that system is just an example and a symptom of the condition of the infrastructure that we have around the planet that we use to facilitate being humans. That system is it's being held together by bubblegum, baling wire, and duct tape.
Right.
It is not capable of being repaired or replaced or fixed. It has to be replaced.
Yes.
Okay. So if that is true, then to me, a great reset would be fixing all this broken shit. Figuring out what are the new technologies and methodologies and first principles thinking. And I got to tell you, just as a side note, and I really don't care how anybody feels about this guy, but Elon Musk, the last week, has dropped superhuman shit.
Yes, he
on
has.
a regular basis. Now,
Yes.
I love me a good superhero, and but I got to tell you what. Let's see, delivering communications that only he could do for a disaster situation, rescuing astronauts, and then dropping a giant Mars rocket, catching it with a pair of chopsticks. Now, there's something about this guy. He knows how to build shit.
Yes.
And he knows how to make it work.
Yes.
If that guy is going to have anything to do with the Great Reset that I'm talking about, I think I'm all in. I'm going to say, yeah, you're going to go put somebody like Musk in there to figure out what's wrong with the administrative part of our country, which is the political side of it, right? The branches.
Yes.
We have got bloated agencies with assumed powers of confiscation and budget that they have. There's no constitution.
Did you hear? Was it Harris herself or just somebody in support of her? One of the media types that said, "Oh my God," Elon Musk said, if he were in any way had anything to say about it, they'd cut about 80% of government.
Oh yeah,
right now to make it work better.
Oh, easily.
They're like, oh my God, he would cut that much government.
Yes.
And they're criticizing him
it needs to be.
Yes.
So all of the, and specifically, we're talking about America right now, or US. All of our systems are broken. Yeah. Nothing works anymore. And the only way that you're going to be able to fix it or do something about it is to A, acknowledge it, B, put people who are systems and processes, engineers. Engineers are going to be so important in the future. If you have the ability to look at something and figure out how it works and how it goes together, you can apply that skill to just about any system you want, and you will find ways. And here's the other part of it that ties into AI. AI is basically designed and tweaked to be as efficient as possible. That's one of the reasons it's throwing a whole bunch of turds into the coding community right now, because these things will write the majority of the code that needs to be written in 1/10 of the time that it would take a programmer to do it. And it gets more and more accurate because it's just code. It's easy for the system to do that. But it's just going to keep getting better and better. Well, now what they're doing is they're using AI to write the AI.
Isn't that a little like inbreeding?
Well, you could, inbidding.
Inbidding. Yeah, nice. There you go.
But my point is that there is a turning point. There is a critical junction where the delineation of the shit that has been carefully crafted and curated and crammed into every orifice of the carbon units for the last 100 years. We'll just go there. It's been much longer, but the last 100 years has been very acute, and it's been very deliberate, and it's been very carefully crafted with some bumps in the road. But the main one where they really screwed up was when they offed JFK. Once that happened, that was such a blatant, obvious, huge event, right? And there was only the Zapruder film, whereas July 13th with Trump, there was 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 mobile phones, right? That was covered more than any other event like that in history. And there will be more of that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, funny, just as a quick aside, what that brings to mind, back when you and I were youngsters and we were in our respective evangelical circles, pursuing our respective evangelical trainings, there was always when they talk of eschatology, the prophecies of the end times, and they talk about the two witnesses that would be executed. And as the book of Revelation says, the two witnesses will be executed and the whole world will see the execution. Talking about the two witnesses at the end times in the Great Tribulation period. That's all an aside. We don't even need to talk about the details of that, folks. But I remember back in the 1970s when I was in school and doing all of this, that they said, there will be, the whole world will see this happening. We don't know how that's going to happen, but we know that the whole world will be there. And now as technology has gone on, tell me if you mentioned the assassination attempt on Trump, how the whole world saw that. Like you said, 50,000 phones being held up and so on. So the proliferation of information like that. Now, I'm not dwelling on the murder of the two witnesses or anything like that. That's just an example I was using in biblical eschatology of when it prophesied that the whole world would see something. That is now not, that is no longer an impossibility. That the whole world could see something at the moment it happens or within moments of it happening. And as long as I've introduced a little bit of the woo, Jeremy brought up something that I think he already knows how you think about this. But here, I'll put his post up here again. He said, can you ask Professor how many other intelligent life forms are on this planet besides humans? So now, I don't want to take something that's a very real, pertinent topic and turn it into something that's woo-infested. For anybody catching this broadcast later at a later date or listening now, I don't want you to think we've gone off the deep end by asking that question. But if we are people who say we believe in certain political ideology, we believe in the mechanics of the world, we can also believe in the spiritual elements of the world. And I don't think they necessarily have to be apart. But what is your thinking on that?
So, the question is how many other intelligent life forms on the planet besides us? Jeremy, the first part of that is to make sure we agree on the definitions. And intelligent, to me, is the ability to acquire, analyze, and adapt to new information. And that is how fast you can do that. Now, there's all kinds of different intelligences from my perspective. I subscribe to the Hermetic principles, the 7 Hermetic principles, as a Taoist. I see great harmony in between the two. And the first one is that mentalism, and that everything is mental. Everything results and comes from consciousness, from the mind. The mind that we experience is a part of the greater consciousness that creates the reality we inhabit.
That's to me, that's being awake and aware. Some may say it's like realizing you live in the dream world and you elevate yourself out of that. And some, not talking too cosmic, it's just a brain thing. It's a mental thing. Like you said, it's being awake and aware, not woke. That's a political thing, but awake and aware of what's going on around us.
So as to the number, I am unsure. The details that come out of all the different encounters, Michael Sala has got with his exopolitics, does a really good job. The guys over at Future Forecasting and the remote viewers do an amazing job. I've seen some tarot and astrology stuff that really is amazing when you query all of these things,
Yes.
even dowsing. Okay. People have to take the individual, the wrapping that people have been put on these things, astrology, tarot, any kind of psychic shit, premonition, precog, clairaudience, clairvoyance, any of those things. Those are just natural aspects of the consciousness that we experience, that we are from. Okay.
Yes.
And it's just like skills that people have in different areas, athletic and even mental, creative skills. Everybody has these same skills in just varying degrees, which goes
Yes.
back to the question of consciousness. And to me, it's not different levels of consciousness, it's varying degrees of consciousness. Anything that we see that we would ascribe the definition or the word consciousness to seems to be organic. It seems to be also express what we call life. So consciousness, just on observation, only happens in things that are biologically organic.
Yes.
Something that we can't make. We don't make biology. We don't make organic organisms.
Right.
We make metamaterials.
Is my desk conscious? No, I don't think my desk is sentient or has consciousness. I'm going to bring Jeremy Hansen in, by the way, to join us.
Oh, sweet.
Here we go. There he is.
Hello, gentlemen.
How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm just listening to this brain trust on here and learning a few things.
Hopefully, we all will. Yeah. That's the one thing I like about this brain trust, where we disagree. We can say, "Oh, I disagree with that," but it's not. Oh, that Bauer fellow is simply an ass. He just hasn't got it right.
That goes without saying. I mean, that comes with the territory. You let me in, you're going to get some ass.
Right. Well, there it is. There it is. I don't know whether to be afraid or
titillated, maybe.
But if you look at what both of you have said, just take the last 4 years, and you guys have the videos and the audio to prove what you've said. Everything to a certain degree and a certain element of what you were talking about has came to pass. Every single thing. Now, some people will say, well, he was wrong about this. But it's not like you have a crystal ball. You're giving people the information that you have with the intellect that you were given, and you guys have been spot on. So, it is what it is.
Well, as much as I hate to admit this, I learned things from Professor Bauer. I learned things from Jeremy Hansen. I contend with Jason Patrick. No, I learned things from Jason Patrick. He's not here yet, so I can't slam him while he's not here. But you would think by my age, our ages, Professor Jeremy, you're still a lot younger than we are, and that we'd have got it figured out by now. And there are certain things. That's certain degrees.
Scotty, that's one of those bad wrappers that somebody put around that concept.
Yes.
You need to just get rid of that wrapper and go, no, there is no, at some point you should get it. There is no place of destiny.
Right.
Right. It's not a destination. It is a process. And this is the point I was making earlier about why shit is broke. When these people who have had this ideology that we have been suffering under, when one after another, you can pick anything, everything that happens that they try to manage and mitigate, they muff.
Yeah,
and they turn it into a master dump, and that's part of the fact that what's happening is the awakening is, a lot of it has been kind of organic, because there's been such a plethora and this unmitigated tsunami of shit that has just been shoved at everybody, and people are going, wait a minute, my bullshit meter can't take it anymore. Oh,
right,
shit, it's broke. I got to get a new meter.
Right.
And now you get the new models that have all kinds of frequency shit, and you can see different bullshits going off in different frequencies.
Facts.
And then you start going, oh, look at that.
Oh, yeah.
I have some questions. And that because the curiosity kicks in, because that's our nature. Our nature is to be curious.
Well,
And
in my defense, Professor Bauer and Mr. Scotty Roberts, in my defense, I would like you, Mr. Scotty Roberts, to name the ages of the founding fathers and Jesus when he died, just for reference.
Well, Jesus was probably the oldest among them. Close anyway. Jesus was what, about 33?
33.
Which means he died in probably 24 or 25 AD. And the ages of the founding fathers, all I know for sure is there were very few of them that were over 30.
Right. Which makes me a little bit long in the tooth for wisdom, but I'm still here giving my all.
I used to say a long time ago, I don't say this much anymore. It was, why can't we get wisdom when we're young? Why can't we experience wisdom? And I think it's relative to how long your life is going to be. You look at somebody like, I'm not saying Napoleon was the wisest person, but you look at Napoleon at age 23, he was the general of all the French armies in the Napoleonic Wars.
Right.
Leading up to the Napoleonic Wars. And at 23, I wouldn't entrust a 23-year-old right now with very much in our Western culture.
Right.
But so it's all relative. I'm going to be 64 in just a couple of weeks. And so at 64, I say, I'm the only reason I brought up I'm learning things from everybody is I'm still learning shit.
You should be.
And I should be. I am not the man in the mountain. And I've thought, when does that man in the mountain status come? Where you say, as the oxen are slow, but the earth grinds patient. That will be $2, please. And, when does that wisdom come where you can disseminate wisdom and say, I've done it? Maybe when the end of growing toward wisdom comes is the end. I got no more to learn.
I talked with Professor Bauer. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. And he was talking to me about the concept of free energy and what he already knew that existed. And when you guys were talking about what Elon Musk has been letting out, he has been oozing information about free energy for months now. I mean, like just laying it out there. And it's funny because this is stuff Professor Bauer taught me 4 years ago that oh yeah, I've heard that before. Where did I hear it from? And, and the same thing with you, Scotty, the more that I talk to you guys, the more I feel infantile, just because of your guys' wisdom. So I hope people pay attention. I really do.
That's my wife. She's like, he doesn't know how to plunge a toilet.
Right.
Well, yes, I do. Just for the record, I do. Yeah. Anyway, I know that's not the main topic of what we were after tonight, but it all fits in to what this topic is about, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, it does, and I really appreciate your sentiments, Jeremy. It was way too kind, but appreciate it. I'm glad that for me, and to your point as well, Scotty, learning is what we do. We do it when every sentient moment that we are experiencing our meat suit, and we're doing it also when we're in that lucid dream state.
Yeah.
I mean, the realm of consciousness and these experiences and in the psychic realm and the paranormal and all the stuff that have been packaged in all this stuff to keep it herded and controlled is, in some ways and in some cases, it was good to keep it from people because you don't want to, for example, you don't want to drop free energy on everybody tomorrow.
No.
The chaos would just cause utter destruction. But on a controlled rollout, that's what we used to do with software, right? You got a piece of software you want to make damn sure it works. It's like, well, let's go take a couple of our best customers got great relationships with and set a guy down next to him and make sure the install goes good and all the upgrade and the integration goes good and they turn it on and it works. Because we don't want that bad precedent. We put out bad stuff. That's what's happened with these people. Okay, so let me tie this back to it. Remember, we were talking about the elite, the global cabal, the syndicate, whatever, whoever you want to call them. Place your people. I think those people, they are the ones that knew about the energetic cycle that they have been writing for the last 400 years. That energetic cycle is ending. It's essentially right at 1700, the end of the Kali Yuga. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of different little metrics that you can check and you go, oh, wait a minute, there's a lot of correlation here. And look at the overlap of this thing that's totally different from that. But look at the time, look at the extent, etc. So that 400-year cycle it's now waning. It's going away. And there's a new one that's coming in. And that energy that's coming in has been a lot of what's been fueling this awakening, this awareness, which has led to the great reveal, causing the great rethink, which is now creating the great reset. Because people are now seeing shit because the energy that's coming in is more conducive to people being awake. The energy from the galactic center is actually the main thing that's hitting us, although there's some other stuff as well. But when you look at the Milky Way galaxy, there's that galactic center that's kind of like dark in the middle, right? Well, our solar system does a 13,000-year wave across that center plane, the center of the galaxy. When we are in that center, the energy is totally different than it is when we're above that plane. And this ties back to the 13,000-year cycles you'll hear in sacred geometry, which also ties back to the 26,000 years, 2 of them. I mean, there's all kinds of amazing metrics that when you look at it and you go, okay, yeah, I see the cycles. So the point is that this 400-year cycle is ending. The folks that were at the top that were riding that wave, they saw the end coming. They had some plans to try to extend their stay and control, but it all fell to shit. So the top folks have boogied, they've bailed, and they've left the second and third lieutenants in charge.
Is that not the truth?
And what's happened is these people there's no leaders. If you look at the ideology that is the one that's falling apart and has caused the majority of the crap over the last few years, do you see any leaders in there?
No.
Is there anybody?
Well, how do you think that ties in
as a leader?
How do you think that ties in right now to all this talk that's going on about the supposed break between the Biden camp and campaign people and the Harris campaign people? Mm-hmm. How that they believe that there is some kind of snap and they don't want to cooperate with each other. It's pretty much what you're seeing there is what you just said. Mm-hmm. It's all the higher ups are pulled out. And you've got the second ups are the ones trying to run everything right now. And I look at...
And there are a bunch of DEI hires that have zero competency, zero experience, zero creativity, and they don't plan worth a shit. So what happens is they go ahead and they pull the trigger on whatever they got queued up. They think it's going to be the big deal. And then that falls apart. Now
it's like, and I'm swinging this back into some of the comments you made yesterday so we can start qualifying some of those. One of the things I notice in this campaign, everybody's calling everybody else a liar, first of all. Well, I happen to support Trump and I have my bias. I look at him, I don't think he's about anything. I think Trump is Trump. Trump is a little full of the way he does things. That's fine. Yeah, he's got his faults in the way he presents. But then I look at JD Vance as the opposite of that. Let's take that and set it aside for a second. I look at the Harris campaign and I see so many lies that have been corrected already in the media, in the public, on social media, that they keep repeating. I just heard something yesterday of her talking about, or was it today? Something she just said in the last couple of days about how the right is obviously keeping Trump in hiding. Because,
I grew up in a middle class family, and
Yeah.
I but
Exactly.
I would like to take it a step further, like step it up, just off of. I know what you think, Scotty, and I know what Professor Bauer thinks, but I think that people really need to wake up, because I think that we're going to have an interdimensional flight here. He was just talking about the Milky Way and the 26,000 years. But what he didn't touch on is, if you believe in string theory, that means that those dimensions are going to intersect.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, when you talk about leadership, that means that we've got at least 11 dimensions that we're talking about. It could be more dimensions that are all at war with each other. And I'm talking literal war. I'm talking about, money wars. I'm talking about time continuum wars. I'm talking about things like that.
Sure.
Do you think people are ready to hear that?
Well,
I've been ready since I was a kid.
I would say that people, the percentage of people that are ready to hear that line is small.
Mm-hmm.
But I will take a different. Well, let me pick a couple of things that you mentioned in there. Okay. First of all, string theory is bullshit. It's collapsing under its own weight. If you go into any of the learned discussions and scholarly debate circles of all of the physicists, they are eating each other alive right now. Because none of it, they're all vying for, it's basically the unified field theory, right?
Right.
Everybody's trying to figure out, how do you get to where here's one theory that explains everything? Well, all of them are wrong. Einstein was wrong. Okay. We've been
melted, brother. You're right on track so far.
So, well, this will be good. I'll get some validation and or correction. Einstein was wrong. Newtonian physics is wrong. Cartesian dualism is bullshit, which is what started all this stuff, really, which is, by the way, tied back into the end of the Kali Yuga and the beginning of the 17th century. Now, if you know what Cartesian dualism is, what happened there was, up until Descartes, the Pythagoras, Plato, Aristotle, all of the thinkers and the philosophers for about a 3,000 or 4,000 year period all basically had the same premise, which was everything was alive. Everything was alive. The sun was alive. The moon was alive. The earth is alive. The stars are alive. Everything is conscious. It was that way for thousands of years. Descartes comes along and says, well, we figured out this math shit. And we've figured out that because we can basically, assign math just about anything that we feel and experience in the material world, we got it. Well, science will take that over from this cosmos, this universe, and all that invisible stuff, the angels, the demons, gods, mind of man, we'll give that to the church. So that separation at that point is when we started getting the physicalism or materialism that we have in our science today. Einstein's based on that. All of the bullshit that we have gone through in the quantum realms, the shit they're doing over in CERN is bullshit. It's dangerous, but it's not going anywhere where they think they want to go with it, because they're using the wrong physics to try to answer the questions that they can't. And that's why, the climate scam is another complete bullshit. It is so cocked up. And the data that's coming out now is just like what happened with the scamdemic. Over time, it's unfortunate for these people, because over time, they pull this shit. Over time, data starts coming out and you start being able to fact check your shit.
Right.
And isn't it interesting how fact checks didn't come around until the truth started coming out?
That's right.
Right. So all of the physics, and this is one of my things that I go off in my book, Informatica. Until we change to frequency physics from the billiard ball physics, we will not be there. It will continue to be a stranglehold on the natural, normal capabilities that we have as humans and as energetic conscious beings, and the abilities that we will be able to unleash from getting out of this mindset that stuff is woo-woo. People are going to find out that the woo is where it's at. The woo is where reality actually happens. One of the catalysts for that I'm a big proponent of, is plant medicine. There are more people finding through psilocybin, mescaline, all of the different strains of medicinal psychological help you can get out of plants, out of mushrooms, has been known for millennia.
Shilajit.
Right? So that is another part of the great reveal. The medicine system that we have, this allopathic approach, isn't designed to know how the body works and how it functions. It looks at the symptom, not the cause. This is why Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine that I trained in when I became a shiatsu practitioner back in the 80s, which is the same thing as acupuncture, but I can't do needles. So
the training of small dogs,
acupressure, but it's the same meridians, same theories, same points, all that stuff.
Well, we used to have a theological theory when we would sit around the coffee table in seminary, and we would discuss contingent dualism, which was a slightly different look at that, is saying that certain things, you have a set of things that could happen, but one of them can only happen depending on what's the word I'm looking for? The
observer,
the inevitability of this thing happening first.
Oh, okay.
The catalyst has to be there.
Yeah, conditional.
There has to be the catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first used that theory, this is just by way of example. Sorry, folks, it's a theological example, but we used to use the idea of Jesus ushering in the kingdom of God, establishing his kingdom on earth, and how that John the Baptist was the new age for the day, the new age Elijah the prophet to Jesus becoming the king in this kingdom. And it was saying that this could only happen if the people had accepted him as the kinsman redeemer, the Messiah. If they had done that at the time, it would have ushered in the kingdom. But because it was rejected at the time, it ushered in a whole different age. And so now that was one of the first, I not so much to discuss that topic as saying that was the example of contingent dualism, is that something had to happen first as the catalyst to make the thing work.
Well, isn't that the same thing with the 7 years of tribulation before Christ comes? You got to have the trib before you have the dude.
That's more, I see that more as calendar.
Well, it's conditional though, right?
Why throw the children's food to the dogs?
Yeah,
Is what the Bible says about that.
right.
And I think it goes back. I mean, you guys are the history buffs, especially you, Scotty. I got a question for you. In today's society, we have now proven that the Egyptians had streetlights that ran off of static electricity from the aqueducts.
Yeah.
Why don't we have that today? You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like with the amount of water we got.
You're asking me why we don't have that. I say,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why we don't have that.
Right.
Because somebody couldn't make money on it. Probably. They devised a way that was better, that worked better, that maybe my assumption would be they found a way that works better, a method that is more reliable, and they incorporated that and somebody could make money on it. So
What do you think, Professor Bauer? Because that's proven science. They know that happened in ancient Egypt.
They know that what happened in ancient Egypt?
They took the static electricity created by the aquifers in Egypt and they ran it to streetlights and they lit up the whole city.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Yeah. The Baghdad battery is, one little left current evidence of that. But I think going back to your first question, which I don't think I ever answered about how many aliens are here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't say aliens. I said intelligent life forms.
Life forms. Yeah. Well, I think that there
might not be alien at all.
We are surrounded by the potential of intelligent beings, that a lot of them that are suppressed because of the bullshit that we've been talking about. But I also feel in my model, my philosophy of reality is that it starts with consciousness, which expresses itself, and it has characteristics and habits. Nobody can explain what consciousness is. It's known as the hard problem in all scientific disciplines. Once you introduce consciousness, it's the observer effect. Everything falls apart. So I think that is indicative of the fact that they're looking at the wrong thing for the wrong reason. They should be looking at the consciousness, not the thing that they're looking at with the consciousness. It's fucked up. I don't know why they do that. But consciousness expresses itself and we can observe it because we experience it, because it's what animates us. Mm-hmm. It's what gives us our expression, our personality, and who we are. Well, that consciousness has characteristics. It seems to be always in motion. I don't see conscious ever in an example of it ever stopping. It seems to be always in, you can use the direction of forward if you want, but it always seems to be a next place. That's why I say, when people say, well, you gotta get into now, man. It's right there in the now. It's like, no, it's the next, because you're always in the next. The now is a stamp of energy frequencies that has made its stamp and it's now moved on, because consciousness is always in motion. Mm-hmm. It also seems to have another characteristic of constant creation, which is where I think some of the biblical and a lot of the Western theologies have kind of codified or maybe obfuscated the idea that creation came because that's what creation does. Mm-hmm. It isn't an instant that it happens. It's just it is, and it does, and that's what it continually does. Now, as it is in motion, going always to the next and always looking for novelty, something new, it seems to express that essence in what we call energy. And energy is expressed through an infinite field of frequencies that are in waves and constantly moving in motion as well, because it's from consciousness. So the expression of consciousness is energy through frequencies and vibratory fields of infinite energy. In those fields is where the materium happens. The materium is made from these infinite fields of frequencies. That's the materium that we inhabit, that all three of us are engaged in here in the materium.
I'll be a Jason Patrick surrogate for the moment. Oh, here we go. The materium has been mentioned.
So I got a question for you. Do you believe that there is reductive programming in consciousness? And I'll bring up something that all of us have saw. Scotty took a picture in Egypt of a life form literally sitting there.
Yeah.
Now, reductive programming limits my ability to tell somebody like, hey, my consciousness not only was aware, but it's willing to accept there was something there that I can't figure out. But because of the reductive programming that we face, it's almost shameful to try to explain what that was. And it doesn't allow us the progress that we need to do. At least that's my take on it. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think I'll just take a quick snap at it and then let you talk.
Sure.
Language is the operating system of the mind. The words, the sounds, the symbols, the sentences, the letters of the language that you use to engage with reality defines the reality. And my quick example is, because going back to what Scotty was saying about learning, right? In the United States, we have this term called student. And a student is somebody who is studying something, right? That study, whatever that student is studying, there is an entrance and an exit to that study. That's how our schooling system is set up that way. It's not education, which is different than schooling. As Twain famously quipped, I never let my schooling get in the way of my education.
Right.
Okay. So learning is something that we constantly do. It's the nature of the next. Because you're never in the now, you're always in the next.
So does this schooling?
Wait, before you speak,
hold on.
Jason, before you speak, raise your chin a little bit.
Look at the gray going down there.
Does he not look priestly tonight?
Oh yeah, I was talking about the shimmy in his beard there.
Oh yeah, there's that. Oh, okay, it's
no, it's too much.
There's no priest's collar on me.
It almost looked like a priest's collar.
So let me finish this word example and student.
All right,
and then it'll make my point. Hopefully, Jeremy, it'll make sense.
And then let Jason jump back in because I cut his point off.
Well, he's
well.
So the word student we use in English is to denote somebody who's studying something, where they start studying and then they get to a point where they get a piece of paper that's stamped and they hang on a wall. In Japan, the word for student is ka, K-A. Only their interpretation of being a student is a lifelong pursuit. So just
it's interesting, in Egyptian, the ka was the spirit.
Yeah.
The essence of someone.
So just that little difference of a word, the meaning of a word, can make all the difference in how you think about and approach something. So I am a ka of consciousness.
Okay.
And that's how I perceive the reality I inhabit, that I experience, that I engage with, and I navigate through. Did that make any sense, Jeremy?
Oh, he's still there.
Oh, did that make any sense, Jeremy?
Yes, it did. Sorry, I'm just listening. My wife asked me for something, so I'm running around trying to grab it.
Right.
Sorry.
Wifus interruptus, yes.
I was just trying to figure out if all of the student stuff and everything else, does this come before or after you ripped the fat line of materium off of the, because I've got to say something.
So I did try to speak.
I know.
So,
Yeah.
I thought he had a priest jacket on for a second. I saw that little
That's
bit
what I
of
thought
white
too.
tuft. Yeah.
That's why I told him to lift his chin. I thought
Yeah.
he had his white collar on. I thought, Jason, when did you do that?
Last time I checked, a priest Cossack is not brown plaid.
I think it can be.
It's new age. It's new age.
It's new age.
You never know. You never know. You could walk into a priest's office. He could be wearing his plaid cardigan with his collar. I don't know.
I don't know.
Interesting statement here by Hans Steen. He says these times in Revelation are not calendary anymore. They're metaphoric for our following his path.
Why did that change and when?
Yeah. When did that change? I would ask that because my understanding
I can point to one time it changed.
Literal calendar thing. Has that changed? Has it become metaphoric?
Now, I don't think so, Scotty, and I'll tell you why. Because if you start studying King James, you start to find out that King James was a charlatan.
Yep.
He was very pragmatic about getting what he wanted. But if you start reading the Geneva Bible or you go back to the Ethiopian text, things change a lot. And if you stop taking stuff that the people in the canon decided should be in there, scientifically, things start making a lot more sense. Even what we're talking about today, like if you take a verse out of the Bible, they'll say today, like, well, you should do greater things than I. Well, when you start putting that with stuff that's in the Book of Dragons or Enoch, and you see the science behind it, you're like, well, of course we can do things that are, greater than I because of our technological advances. However, being that he was the reject a-hole that he was, he tried to use that book to control people instead of freeing people. And that's what I think happened.
Right. That's interesting.
That's not the first time that's happened in our history.
No, it's not.
I mean, look at if you look at here's an interesting thing to ponder. You look at the Western religions, right? Basically, the Abrahamic religions, right? Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, right? They're all kind of out of the same pot.
By the way, I'll just say to Hans, he says it changed when he was cut off in the middle of his path. Say there is contingent dualism at play. It's if one condition had been met, then this condition would have taken over. But since this is the one that happened, this one did. A little different look at string theory. Anyway, go ahead, Professor.
So the Abrahamic religions, right? They're called Abrahamic religions because they all kind of came from Abraham. All right. So you start, you look at all of the different iterations, machinations,
yes,
of messiahs through all of them. Different word, just used generically, right? What's one of the common characteristics all three of those have? Their head has a personality. It has an individual at the top.
Okay.
Now, Hinduism doesn't have an individual. Judaism or Taoism doesn't have an individual.
Well, Hinduism has multiple individuals.
What's that?
Hinduism has multiple individuals. It's a polytheistic religion.
But it's a collective.
It's a polytheist system.
Right.
But my point is there isn't just one that has a personality and an attitude. Over there, they got a shitload of them. And that's a whole nother, you get into Mahabharata and the Ramayana and the Rig Veda. I mean, they got some stories and some fighting going down with some weapons that are way out of Star Wars. Okay. And people don't
that Rig Veda stuff.
People don't really appreciate or realize the depth.
George Lucas got the inspiration for the Death Star.
Yes.
Well, you guys saw Oppenheimer, right? Did you guys?
Oh yeah.
I have not, as many times as I've said I want to see that.
I have not seen Oppenheimer yet. God.
I have not seen Oppenheimer yet.
Excellent.
I got this close.
The Bhagavad Gita.
So, and a lot of the
I am become death, destroyer of world.
Tesla studied Vedic.
Mm-hmm.
There's I mean, I there's like 500 facts I want to drop right now, and I'm trying to pick one.
Just
The
pick one.
point is that in the Abrahamic religions, they all have some dude at the top that's got an attitude and a personality with an ego, and you wonder why there's a bunch of chaos and crap in each one of these belief systems. Each one of these theologies, and you don't even have to do the male versus female thing. It could have been a female. Doesn't matter. Happens to be all men. Doesn't say a lot for us about how we run shit. But
let me ask you guys something very elementary. In Genesis, what happened the sixth day?
The sixth day.
Well, God rested on the seventh.
Man and woman.
Yeah.
He created man on the sixth day, right?
Right.
And then on the seventh day, he rested, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Upon awakening, he found there was nobody to toil the land, and he created Adam, correct? In his own image.
After the seventh day?
Yeah.
No, Adam isn't.
I don't find that in Genesis.
Yeah, I think Adam's got a month or two in the timeline as they've laid it out, and I think that's all bullshit anyway.
Wait, even if it was,
I think it's metaphoric.
If you look at anything that's in the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the Torah, right? The books of Moses, supposedly, right? All of that and a shitload more detail was written 1,500 years earlier in Sumeria, and it's on tablets known as the Enuma Elish. And it not only starts off literally word for word right out of the first book, but it takes that first sentence, and then it takes a shitload of additional dives.
Some of what you're saying, Jeremy, can be found where in the Sumerian tablets, the cuneiform, they mention the story of the gods, the Anu, who wanted to have someone to do their labor for them, to dig their canals, to till their ground, to do this, do that. And so Elil conscribed Enki, Ea, to create, as he said, even in the cuneiform, it's spelled, it says, create primordial man for us to do our canals and to dig our trenches, to do whatever, to till our grounds and so on.
See, I agree with you. And my question is, to answer like everything we're talking about in this, I went to church a lot as a kid. My mom was a Lutheran. My dad was a non-denominational. So I went to 2 different churches every other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned is they never talked about the Nephilim. They never talked about when God said we, talking about gods. They never explained Genesis except for in a very, very basic form. They never talked about any of the other books, whether it's Enoch, Esther, Book of Dragons, any of them. And people wonder today why, when they follow what we're taught in the system of like Baptist, why they don't understand what's going on today. But to me, it's very clear. Like Thor could have existed in the Bible, according to the Nephilim. Could have happened. Yeah, it could have. But if you go to a preacher or a priest or somebody today and they tell you that, you can't even think, again, back to what Professor Bauer was saying about being able to talk, and think like we should because of who we are. You literally can't do it because of the barriers set between politics, religion, and everything else, because we don't take things in their totality. We skew them to make them people think a certain way.
Right. And I think tying into that, I want to hit this point, and I don't want to ignore your point, but I think it ties into this. Hans said Genesis is older than Moses. It's a compilation. Well, I think Genesis itself was penned by Moses, but I think some of the contents of Genesis are things that, like Professor Bauer just said, like I've written about, they hail back to other religions. What do you think Moses did the first 40 years he was in Egypt, growing up as part of the the royal house? He got the education of the nobles.
Right.
He would have been educated on the Sumerian or the Anunnaki. These are Anunnaki, take it out of the ancient aliens context. He would have been educated on this. And when he wrote Genesis, he pulled on, I have said rather tongue-in-cheek, he plagiarized ancient Sumerian religion, because he took who was Enlil, the chief god of the Anunnaki. Well, he became Elil, or El, which is the base word for God. El became Elohim, El Shaddai, El Elyon. All these Jewish or Hebraic variations of the name. Enki, his brother god who created man and woman, where 1,500 years before the writings of Moses. Enki Iyah became, that's the base word for Yahweh or Jehovah. It's the same exact name. And so you have these things that were carried from one religion to the new religion by the writings of Moses. And so I think that there is, Hans, you're right in one respect, is that it's a compilation. I think there are elements of the stories that are compilation.
Well, I want to agree with "You Don't Know Me, Mom."
Yes.
Genesis is the Sumerian tablet stories names, and dates changed, but Sumerian tablets were rewritten probably for 500,000 years or more. I am inclined to go down that timeline, and I think that we actually have probably at least, I would say, 4 to 6 major civilization iterations over about a 3 million, 5 million year period. And what we're seeing is expressions of different iterations during that period, like the Sumerians, like nobody knows who did Nan Madal or Ganang Padang. I mean, these are there, and there's more and more structures just off the coastlines of major civilizations. Some Dwarka was confirmed off of the coast of India, which was thought, since they knew the story, to be a legend. And then some guy went out a mile off the coast and did a dive and found this entire city out there.
How about that?
Right where they said Dwarka was. Yonaguni over in Japan. I mean, this is, to me, another part. Jason, for you, brother, this is a part of the great reveal.
By the way, a note of business here. Sarah said she keeps getting ads like every 10 minutes. Folks, if you're getting a lot of ads, I don't know what that's all about, because my ads here have always on YouTube been structured that they will insert ads in a balanced fashion. Now, if you're getting ads every 10 minutes, that's not very balanced. And I'll look into that and find out what it is.
No, because it takes us 10 minutes to get one wound up. And
I know.
Don't want that shit interrupted.
I seen my wife came on here. Now I got to be on my best behavior.
I saw your wife came in. Maya Hansen
one
came in
click of his point.
How about Tartar, Scotty and Professor? I mean, we've seen a lot of evidence of Tartar. And then the cool thing about Tartar is we can go back in unclassified documents in the U.S. government where the newly formed CIA met with multiple countries around the world, and they decided to take Tartar out of the history books around all the civilized nations around the world. Why would they do that?
See, Tartar, to me, I thought I could always prevent that with brushing. But
I'm glad you got that out of the way.
Dad
cream
joke.
of?
Come on.
Like, are you making a meringue?
Yes.
Are we talking about the tartars?
Cream of tartar. I have 2 jars of that upstairs. I don't know why we have that stuff. We never use it for anything.
For making meringue.
For making meringue, which we do every other day here in the Roberts household. Hey, honey, how's the new meringue today? No, it doesn't happen. So, but we've got the spice for it. anyway, tartar. I think isn't tartar. We used to say it tartar, and put it on our fish. But
Hey, you want a flashback? Did you ever make your own? Did you ever make your own tartar sauce by mixing ketchup and mayo together?
ketchup and mayo when we were kids.
And relish.
I never have ever heard of ketchup and mayo being referred to as tartar sauce.
Well,
And
now
so
you
my
have.
in
mom
fact,
used to
tartar
do.
sauce has like other things not related to tomatoes in it.
Yeah.
You see, I grew up a poor black boy, and
In a middle class home.
quote Steve Martin.
Yeah.
And we grew up poor. We didn't know it, but my mom, rather than go out and buy tartar sauce, oh wait, I think it was Thousand Island dressing.
Thousand Island dressing.
That was mayo and ketchup. It was Thousand Island dressing, and I think tartar sauce was mayo and lemon and relish or something. I don't know what it was.
That
But anyway,
sounds. That
it was
sounds
something weird. I just made my own vanilla coffee creamer the other day.
Oh yeah.
Not that this is relevant to any fucking thing we're talking about. Pardon my French. But you use, I like vanilla cream in my
Yeah.
coffee. And we were out, and I'm like, oh, we're out, and I don't want to run to the store.
That's the
And I
worst.
go, wait a minute. I looked up a recipe. One can of sweetened condensed milk. And fill that same can then with milk, mix it, put in a little bit of like a tablespoon of maple syrup, and then like a half a teaspoon of vanilla. Shake it all up. Vanilla creamer. There you go. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything we have talked about tonight.
See,
It doesn't. But you know what? It's interesting.
It is, isn't it?
You're
Yeah,
out
well-
there in the kitchen, man, MacGyvering it and making it work.
That's right. That's right.
That's like the bootleg Kabuli palau I made for supper for me and my neighbors tonight.
Ooh,
I was
bootleg. Bears interest now.
more. It comes down to me not having the time because the decision to make it was last minute because I was smoking a lamb roast, and I was like, oh, I'll just do palau, and yeah, so there was some quick thinking on my part, and some things weren't prepared like how they
Very
should be.
nice.
But you know what? I made it happen. And you know what? The neighbors loved it. So see, you're just out there making it happen.
There it is. By the way, the so-called Anunnaki, could they have been the end peoples from a previous civilization? Maybe. What about places like Göbekli Tepe and Kahara Tepe and these places that they're now?
Mohenjo-daro.
These things are 12,000 years old. This predates what was once the convention of where civilization started. So it's interesting when you look at that. She
Well,
might
to
be
me,
right.
to me, Scotty, the interesting thing when I look at shit like that, those are data points in a field, right? And you
Yes.
want to, and you have to look at and have as wide a view of the field as possible to see what may be afoot.
Yes.
You guys were talking about the Bible and King James and you know, King James and the gang and you know all the bullshit they did to put that Bible together, right?
Yeah,
I
King
mean, come on.
James was
So the amount of incorrect information has been the roux of the day. It has been what the majority of people have been
How do we know it's incorrect?
by checking it out.
But what, just cracking open the King James Bible and being like, oh, it's incorrect?
Well, no, you have to have the additional information like we have now to prove that
you
it's
got to have the original.
right.
That's what I'm
That's my-
asking
that's
for.
my
What's
point.
your source? Give me the sauce.
What's your source? You know, I took textual criticisms in seminary, and we went through all that stuff and looked at all the different variations and that we could, you know, that were well. He handpicked a bunch of variations, and The interesting thing was the King James was based on older texts, based on the Codec A and the Codec B texts that go back. Some of these things go back to within a century of the time of Christ, some of these writings. And the King James, which is based on that. But it's interesting, I have found, that there are, when you go to some of the older texts that exist, there are differences you find, textual differences and things. There are whole chapters missing. There are whole words that aren't in the King James that are in the, it's like I've always used the example with the King James of transliteration versus translation. The word baptism or baptize in the King James Bible. The word baptize is a transliteration of a word, not a translation of a word. Mm-hmm. And there was a reason for it. There was a political reason they did that when writing the King James. The translation of the word baptizo in the Greek is immersion, dunking under the water and bringing back up the action. But since sprinkling and things like that, for lack of a more complex explanation, they transliterated the word. So they took baptizo and just put it into English letters and got baptized. That's not what baptizo means. It doesn't mean sprinkling on the head. It means dunking under the water and bringing back out. So this is one of those examples. Now that's New Testament,
which is why Orthodox Christian baptisms are lit.
You're right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So let's go.
So I have an answer for you, Jeremy, on your tartar thing.
Sure.
Tartaria. And it's actually the form of a question, an observational question. So it appears that there was this something that was clearly on maps for at least 2 or 3 centuries. Tartar was all over the place. Tartar was where Russia and Siberia is now. Tartar in some maps I've seen all the way into South America.
Yes.
And some even into North America.
Yeah. And
then you look at all of the descriptions about what Tartars, how do you know it was a Tartar? A civilization, they had specific design, a lot of spires, a lot of designs that looked very much like, a lot of cases, Tesla coils. And they had all kinds of other anomalies, like you didn't need the fireplace. You just put stuff in it and it started to burn and it went up, but it warmed everything. You didn't have to start anything. There's some of the details from different stories, but I think it's directionally correct. And then you throw in a little side ball and a curve, and are you familiar with?
So you're saying Mick Jagger wouldn't have been able to deal with being there because he'd have nothing to start him up.
That's correct.
Oh,
yes.
Boy.
So
are
you familiar with Viktor Fomenko?
Yes.
I am not.
So he is a Russian scientist that's written a 7-volume tome on all of the evidence that he's gathered about how our timeline has been completely fucked with, that at least 1,000 years of what we consider a part of our timeline was taken out.
Right.
I have heard that.
Yes.
So
who takes out?
Then you throw in,
yeah. How did they do that?
Throw in another little oddity in that kind of period that seems to be consistent, and that's the mud floods.
Is it a space out of it?
Well, no, but they have taken things out, such as like the Tuskegee experiment for 50 years. They took that out of American history books.
They didn't take it out of the American history books. It didn't go into the American history books.
Right, they hid it.
Never got entered. Yeah.
Well, right. They hid it until the 70s when it got exposed and it all came out. Actually, I think it may have been before that.
It was a conspiracy theory until Bill Clinton decided to let the world know about it.
No, the Tuskegee experiments were known long before Clinton was president.
Oh yeah, it was a conspiracy theory.
No,
Bill Clinton is the one that declassified the material. No. Bill Clinton declassified the material. Bill Clinton is the one that apologized to the families. But what I'm saying is when you have a government structure, they can hide things. And I mean, there's a lot of things that are hidden. Being a blue collar guy, I talk to a lot of these concrete experts. And they're still trying to figure out how they built the Coliseum and what consistency the concrete they used, because they can't replicate it today. There is no possible way even the American government can make concrete as strong as they did back then.
Well,
That's just a real life example.
So have you guys heard about you've heard the term 0 point energy, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that basically it's Dirac C. Dirac was a physicist that is the one you were talking about, quantum mechanics, is the one who said that even at the lowest measure of cold, there is still energy in space. So, and what he referred to it as a foam. It's like that's what everything existed in, this foam kind of thing. But that's what 0 point, because what happens is there's always energy there. It's not that it's not that it needs to be regenerated. It's that the energy exists in the ether. It's just in a different set of frequencies, and that we can't perceive. And that's one of the things that people, I think, we've taken for granted because we've been just bombarded with invisible frequencies that that we're doing what we're doing right now. These uniblabs that we have the world in our pockets. Okay. I mean, though it's all frequencies. It's all wireless and radio frequencies.
So
and that's how all that stuff happens.
That note, what I want to do, I want to bring this all back around, all this fun little trumps down tributaries, and I've mixed my metaphors there. You don't trump a
fucking rabbit holes,
you paddle down a tributary. All of the sidetracks we've taken. Let's get to the big question that was brought up yesterday afternoon. And what is going on? Yes. What is going on this week with Kamala Harris, the campaign, and all of this that you were alluding to yesterday?
Yes.
That there's going to be, I think you said something. Now, this is not a quote, but I think I've got the idea right. Well, the Kamala Harris campaign is coming to an end this week. By the end of this week. And I'm like, oh, is it? Well, how are they going to pull that off? What are they going to do next? I said, install Hillary. I don't know. Give me your thoughts.
So just to clarify what I said was that I didn't say that it was going to be the end of her campaign, although that is one possibility. What I was saying is this week it will become clear that there is no contest.
Oh, yes.
That there's no way that what they have put up on that political party for this, it's not an election, it's a selection.
Yes.
The realization that there's no chance, even to the point of potentially Trump running unopposed. So I think that the collapse of what's happening, going back to, remember we were talking about the cabal, the elites, the Globalonis, the syndicate, whatever. Well, most of those folks, they booked. They got out of town. They said, this ship is going down and we need to get out of the way and let it crumble. There's nothing they can do to salvage it, to save it, or anything else. So they've left the second and third tier folks alone. They're the ones making the decisions. And to me, just from a process perspective, if you have that kind of set of circumstances, what are the chances of shit going well versus fucking up? the fucking up percentage keeps going higher, the lower you get with the levels of people that are left. And I think that there's actually a fair amount of abandoning ship going on as well. And there's a lot of holy shit. If this goes the way it's going, it's not going to be really fun for me on the other side. I need to make other plans. So I think there's some of that mentality going on. But the bottom line is that there is nothing, everything that they've tried to do to present and change the mindset, the perception of people of who they are, has failed miserably. It's one of the most epic, I think it'll go down in the history books as one of the most epic examples of failure of not only in business cases, because it's got all kinds of business aspects, but just a complete political disaster. The Kamala collapse has happened. And now, in fact, I said maybe we got some indication of what I was saying Sunday would come this week, actually came today. So CBS and NBC have been doing their polls. A week ago, they had Harris up 4 in one and 7 in the other.
This week, as of today, I've heard these numbers.
Today, she's at like 2 on 1 and Trump's by 1.
Yep.
In 1 week, there's been a change, a dramatic change. And what's happened during this time, with the typically when you would see those kinds of polling swings on the data, they would be the result of some kind of an event.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly what happened with Biden or Burden, as I refer to him, in that first debate, numbers went, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second here. And they all switched. It's not only the NBC and ABC, they're friendlies, right? They're part of the team. They're getting
to the left. Yes.
They're getting the cues to dump on the views. So it's not only them, everything. Have you noticed? I heard this from somebody else and I thought about it and I said, yeah, I've seen the same thing. I don't know about you guys, but I've seen more Black people, men, women, various ages, freely and joyfully doing videos about how they are supporting Donald Trump.
Yeah, I have too.
And I've seen more of that now than I've seen in the last 8 years, for sure. There was plenty back in 2020, but there just seems to be, and most of it's coming out of the man on the street. Don Lemon went out and did some interviews. People on the street asked him, what do they think? And every one of them said Trump. And Lemon's standing there going, am I in another universe?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of examples of this. So it's not even, you can't even say that it is being manufactured. Unless these people are really trying to screw themselves or they're just stupid. But this is coming from the people who are expecting a different answer. They're expecting everybody to think differently.
Right.
They're expecting everybody to have a different perspective that aligns magically, for whatever reason, with the one that they are promoting, the one they prefer.
Yes.
And so they're going out and they're like, well, shit. There was another, I think it was the local CBS or NBC affiliate in Nevada and Las Vegas, went to a bunch of diners and could only find one Harris supporter.
Yes, in the whole lot. Yes.
It's like, so you went out to go find, some arrows for your quiver and you got emptied.
I will tell you this, and I make an empirical statement here that is very opinionated and very biased, but I think also very accurate. As that I would look at most of my friends, I've got family members who are Harris supporters, and I can just query them very simply without, we don't have to get into it and we don't have to get at it, but I'm really curious. What
Ready for
about
that.
Kamala Harris makes you want to vote for her? And it really always comes down to, they're very hard pressed to come up with anything else other than, well, she is the not Trump ticket. And I'll say, is that what you really want running your country? Somebody who is just not somebody else. I said, what is it about? You can get in and ask, what is it about Trump's policies that have hurt you? What is it about what Trump did when
the
he
Trump
was
abortion bans, all the Trump abortion bans.
Well, the abortion bans, yeah,
Abortion bans.
the abortion bans.
That goes
So-
with that wonderful use of verbiage that they
Yes,
reinforce something by repeating it
exactly.
incessantly.
Well, Jason,
There's another big story.
Jason, is it me, or do you see more stupidity in that ideology than usual?
Okay. In what, like the ideology of the left?
What you
Or-
just used as an example. The example you just gave was the expression of an ideology, right?
You're talking about repeating something incessantly.
Yeah, the whole action,
Yeah.
all that bullshit.
Well, I mean, you do it a lot, so.
I stepped into that one.
So there's a new story right now. It came out yesterday with two African immigrants that came to play for the University of Nebraska when Tim Waltz was the assistant coach and the dean. And they have both of these students saying that he sexually assaulted them and told them that if they said anything, that they would be going back to their country of origin. And that story is just about to break big, but it's already out there. The people
My
that know
theory on any of that, show me the facts. I want to hear the facts. I don't want to hear rumors. I don't want to hear people going off on it without having any substantiated fact behind it, because those kinds of stories are a dime a dozen when it comes to campaigns and trying to take somebody's campaign down.
True.
And that's not, I'm not criticizing you, Jeremy, because I know you're right on the same page with me. It's like, okay, fine. So you're saying he did that. Show me some evidence of that.
Right.
Show
Well,
me
and
proof of
this
that.
is coming from
And-
the victims themselves.
Right. Right.
So I don't know, it's a little bit late in the game to be bringing that out.
Well,
but
the
I don't
woman
know
who
how they
just won
prove it.
$92 million from Donald Trump in that sexual trial. She supposedly was the person it was done to. She was the first-hand witness. There was no evidence, though. I don't even want to get into the abysmal politics of that trial. That'll all come out later. We'll talk about that another time. And we have before. But what about this accusation against Walz? Is Walz going to come out and say that's just blatantly untrue? And they're going to say, no, it's not. It's true. And then what do you got left?
We will never get to it because the just like Biden's records were sealed at the college, Waltz's records for this, there was an investigation and all of those records were sealed. And now they just got these two guys that were from Africa. I think one was from Nigeria and one I think was from South Africa. But they both gave their statements and said and blah, blah, blah. So it's just another thing. It's going to be thrown out there. But the way that they talk about dates, facts, things like that, it's not like the ones that accused Trump where they were like, well, it was sometime in 1947.
Right.
These people have dates and they say when they talk to the school board, they say all that stuff. So can you believe it? Seeing some of the videos I've seen of Waltz, I can believe it, but that's just a gut instinct. And I'm with you. You need some truth to it. But when it's all hidden like that, how do you actually measure that? And how do you take that as a person knowing that you will never get the truth?
You're never going to get the truth. So it might be one of those things that we choose to believe, but we say, I can't practice with that knowledge because I have nothing to back it up with. So I've got that little tidbit of knowledge, but I don't have anything to back it up. So it's unusable.
that actually brings up something potentially slightly uncomfortable, but a great point.
Sure.
When we go down the rabbit hole of, well, there's a guy or these two students who said that this, that, and the other thing, right? That Waltz did these things. We're doing the exact same shit
Sure we are.
that the left is doing
Yeah.
and playing the same game. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like, at the end of the day, does that really matter? Like, I mean, not saying that if he did something, I mean, obviously that does matter, but I mean, like, is this going to be something that can actually put effects on target? Are you actually going to be able to get any traction with this? Are you going to be able to get anywhere with it? Or is this something that is, and this isn't, I don't know where you heard it. I'm not judging on that. I'm using just this as an example though, of, you find this in some forum, some Twitter X, whatever thing. Like, look, you got to take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt until there's actual evidence released. Case in point, this being a racist symbol,
right.
fucking 4chan. All right. Some dudes duped the entire country. Well, okay, the entire left-leaning side of the country into thinking the made you look, now you get a nut tap, like, game is a racist thing. And 4chan, guys on 4chan actually created it, and you can find the whole thread, you can see the whole thing. Like, until you have evidence of something, all you're doing is you're pulling these things from them. So,
well, this is the thing that
we
has
have to
bothered me the most about
careful with
what has bothered me about the Harris campaign and the things that we see is and we got to start wrapping this up, folks, is the ability to continue trying to persuade people to vote for them by stating things that are not so, by stating things that are, well, why did they want Trump to get convicted of a crime? They didn't care what. They just wanted to be able to say he's a convicted felon. Well, they've
Scotty,
got that. That's a fact. But without going into the details of the case, they wanted to be able to say that so bad before he was before the election, and they got their wish on that one.
It's not that our well-meaning liberal friends are ignorant. It's just that there's so much they know that just isn't so.
That isn't so. Thank you, Ronald Reagan.
Thank you, Ronnie. Nice.
Got to get it in for the Gipper.
Friends are ignorant. It's that there's just so much we know. They know that.
So here's another one, a potential little scenario that's kind of be interesting. Think about this. So it's clear that there is no hope, and that's why I said this 2 months ago.
Sure.
I was looking at it and I said, by the middle of October, it'll be over.
Yes.
And here we are, and it's just it's so clear that everybody is going, okay, we're screwed, or we're gonna win.
Yep. Yeah.
So let's say that that happens, and that it's too big to rig, it's too obvious to obfuscate, and it is delineated by everybody going, well, doesn't matter how much fraud or fucking around, we're
something to rig.
It wouldn't matter. I mean, it was just too big. So that, which is another possibility.
That's what she said.
Think about this. Let's say Trump wins, but he's not president for another 2 months.
Yeah,
actually 3 months, almost
3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, almost 3 months. Yeah,
almost 3 months. So what if he clearly wins, and during that 3 month period, Biden expires?
Okay.
Puts Kamala in office for a couple of months.
Okay.
She becomes president. They get
for the remainder of Biden's term, which then means she hands the office over to Trump, because that's how the system works.
Yes.
And we all get to laugh. What I don't. What do you? What are you getting at, Prof? Like,
I'm
we have a
just-
system that functions in a certain way.
I'm just throwing spitballs.
I don't wish death on anybody,
Right.
but I just think it would be an interesting scenario
What
if
do you-
Joe
well, think
Biden,
about-
if
No,
Joe
nobody-
Biden passed this life,
Yeah,
elevating
he
Kamala
is
Harris
so
to president,
close.
and Trump becomes president, and she's got to pass the presidency on peacefully to him.
I mean, situationally, it would be absolutely hilarious and
Oh my
ironic of having to. It's like that. Oh, so close with the dollar on the fishing line commercial.
Right.
So
Yep.
It adds insult to injury, kind of thing. So
Yes.
it's
But she
entertaining
will.
in that way.
She will be logged in the history books as president,
Right.
pro tem,
Right.
and
And
she- and she
Mike
will go in
Johnson,
the
the
history
Speaker of the
books
House,
as
will be the
being-
VP.
as being the first female president by never winning it, by stumbling into it by accident, and not having, it was not any of her shit. She never even got a vote.
And
Well,
the fun part that Josh Kemp just makes
Mhm.
is that Mike Johnson will be the speaker, go from Speaker of the House to Vice President under her.
That's right.
so I'm
And then guess who will be Speaker of the House?
Grassley,
Not Grassley.
or is it Grassley goes?
Why am I going off on his name now? Head of one of the committees right now. You see him all the time. His name has slipped my mind, and I don't know. Oh, Jim Jordan.
Jim
Oh
Jordan.
yeah.
Jim
Yeah.
Jordan will be Speaker of the House.
I actually wouldn't necessarily have a lot of problems with that.
I wouldn't either.
No.
I think
Well,
that would be
I'm
a
gonna
very
jump off of
interesting
here.
scenario if Joe
Um,
Biden doesn't make it.
but I wanted to say something, Scotty, for your friends and family that when they're saying that they want to vote for Kamala, and I don't care if Trump was in office or not, and this is a valid, provable reason that I will never vote for Kamala.
Yeah.
Besides all the crazy stuff she's done and the everything, I have a special needs daughter, and I spent a lot of time in the hospital with her.
Mhm.
And there's videos out there of Kamala Harris bragging about putting parents in jail in California that didn't have their kids in school because, and one of them was a black woman with a child that had sickle cell anemia.
Yep.
And she bragged
Right.
about taking DAs that would go after like drug dealers and gang task force and putting them on these parents simply because if she didn't do that, the state of California wouldn't get the federal government money for the school system. And she bragged about it. That's totally provable. You can find all the information. All the videos are out there. And she's literally with her stupid laughing about putting these parents of special need kids in jail while
Are
they're
you
going to
giving
court.
him monologue music?
No, this is the show is coming to an end, music.
All right. Well, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys later.
Great to see you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
You too.
Thanks for being here. All right, guys, we're wrapping it. We have to. JP, good to
Yes.
see you. Father Patrick.
Father
Good
Patrick,
to see you
Father
today.
James.
Glad
There,
you made
it is
in.
not a priest collar.
And Professor Bauer, as always, good to have you, brother.
Thank you for
I gotta
having
get out of here.
Thank you for having me. It's
Have a
great
good
to be
night.
had.
I'm going to sign us off. We'll see you next time. All right, everybody else, guess what? It's that time. Time to go. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this program. And we'll be back on Wednesday night. And I hope you'll make it a regular thing to come Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. But until then, let's get out of here. Live long and prosper.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hi, I'm my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.